Why is awareness important? When it comes to why awareness is important and why it's important to be aware, when it comes to mentally, it's important and it benefits your mental state of being to be aware is because, well, being aware of what's going on mentally is going to help you to figure out how you can best implement, how you can best benefit your mental state of being. How can you best improve? How can you best make changes to your mental state of being in order to have the, let's say, most stable mental space, most strongest mental state of being, most adaptive mental state of being. Being aware of what you're thinking about, being aware of the mental forms that you deal with, being aware of what comes across your mind when it comes to mentally, having that awareness of what's going on mentally can help you to benefit your mental state of being. It can also help for you to just become more aware when it comes to awareness in general. Being aware is, as far as mentally goes, is being aware of how are you thinking, being aware of what are you experiencing when it comes to mentally, being aware of what is going on in the mental realm when it comes to the reality around us. And when it comes to mental awareness and being aware of the mental state of being, this can help you, like I said, improve that mental state of being and to be able to move into a better space when it comes to mentally, in a space that is most right for you. Let's say, for example, you are mentally continuously having this repetitive thought, this repetitive mental form that you're dealing with, and you don't know how to, let's say, move on from it. How do you detach from it? Well, being aware of it at first is the first space, because that's the first space always, awareness, and that's what always comes first. And being aware of that mentally is going to help you to, all right, let's decide mentally, how do we get over this? How do we mentally evolve from this mental state of being? Therefore, we can move into a new, more proper state of being when it comes to mentally. Let's say you're dealing with a mental illness or mental stress or whatever that may be that you're dealing with when it comes to mentally. First off, being aware of this is going to help you, because if you're not aware when it comes to mentally, any number of things could be happening to your mental state of being that could be hindering you, that could be holding you back, keeping you docile, keeping you stagnant, if you are not aware of these things. So staying aware of these are what's going to help you improve your mental state of being. Being aware of, okay, I'm doing this thing and it's affecting my mental state of being in a negative way. Well, being aware of what that thing is and how it's affecting your mental state of being is your first step in now detaching from that action or detaching from that way of thinking in order to move into a more proper mental state of being when it comes to improving your mental state of being. Always having that awareness mentally when it comes to anything you're going through. Just be mentally aware. No matter if you're in a different situation, you're dealing with a different language, you're dealing with different thoughts, people that are thinking differently, places that are using different mental states of being, or let's say mental forms that are needing to be adaptive to whatever situation you are in. Your first way to be strong and have that strong mentality is to be aware when it comes to mentally. No matter what's going on, make an effort to stay aware mentally, because your mental state of being and your awareness of that mental state of being can help you not only in your mental state of being, but it can help improve your physical state of being through whatever actions you show. It can help improve your emotional state of being, dealing with whatever emotions you feel or how you deal with the world, how you react through your emotional state of being. And then also it can help you to put yourself on a spiritual path that is reflective of that improved mental state of being, that is reflective of the effort that you've put in to constantly be mentally aware, the effort that you put in to constantly be aware of things when it comes to mentally. Therefore, when things are happening, when you're thinking about certain things, you're having certain conversations, you're having certain dealings with people, anything that has to constitutes you using your mental state of being, have that awareness to be able to stay in your power no matter what when it comes to mentally, in order to be aware of what is going on all around you. And this goes along with your dreams, what happens when you fall asleep, and things that are occurring in the mind. Even though this is the subconscious mind, you can still be aware of these things. And having that awareness is going to help you to understand, where did that come from? Where did this dream come from? Where did this vision come from? Where did this daydream come from? And just being able to be aware mentally, you'll have the ideas of where it came from. For example, I had this vision. What had caused this vision? What went through my mental state of being? What had an effect on my mental state of being to where that was even a, let's say, possibility, or for that to even play out when it comes to subconsciously? What was I mentally, consciously aware of, and having that awareness for this to play out? And that will help you to figure out, how can I move physically? What actions do I need to do physically, using that foreknowledge that I was gained through in that, let's say, dream, that vision, that daydream, whatever it may be that you experience through the mental state of being. How can I now apply that to my physical state of being? How does that tell me more and keep my awareness high of my physical state of being? How can that mental awareness of what I've just experienced mentally, even though it may be subconsciously, but consciously as well, how can that then improve my emotional state of being? How can my emotional stability be enhanced, and how can my emotional strength and emotional protection of my states of being be, like I said, improved from that vision, improved from what I've just experienced? And then, of course, spiritually, how can that vision, that dream, that daydream, whatever I experienced through that mental state of being, how can I now allow this to help me be clarified and put me onto a more further spiritual path when it comes to enhancing or expanding, and when it comes to growing, when it comes to adapting knowledge, when it comes to gaining that knowledge? Because you'll be able to understand, okay, these are the things that happen to influence the mental state of being. This is how I can be more aware when it comes to mentally. And that's just on awareness, and as being aware, and on being aware at all times when it comes to mentally. Of course, you are always thinking, so it's going to be, let's say, a natural thing for, let's say, thinkers, or for people that are well adjusted to their mental state of being, that are in a flow state when it comes to their mental state of being. And therefore, being aware mentally can have you pushing yourself in all sorts of states of being, physically, emotionally, spiritually, just because that awareness that you have when it comes to mentally can help improve the stability of your life, can help improve the quality of your life, can help improve the experiences that you are dealing with, and can help you to have a direction to go towards, because that mental awareness is going to give you feedback. It's going to give you thoughts. It's going to give you certain ideas that are going to be bringing up that across the mental state of being, and you're going to be like, you know what? This is another thing that I've been thinking about. I can use my mental state of being to put myself in this space better when it comes to physically. I can use my mental state of being to, let's say, deal with my emotional state of being when it comes to emotionally. I can use my mental state of being to improve my spiritual system, and maybe adapt a new spiritual system, and or create a new spiritual system that is original, that is right for oneself. And therefore, you can have the mental awareness of, where am I moving when it comes to my spiritual path? Where am I moving when it comes to my spiritual travels, alongside not just your spiritual travels, but whatever happens and occurs in the physical state of being, whatever happens to occur emotionally, whatever happens to occur when it comes to spiritually. Always having that mental awareness will end up benefiting your state of well-being when it comes to that, being mentally aware. Getting right into physical awareness. When it comes to physical awareness, being aware of our physical actions, being aware of how we are interacting with the physical state of being, and having the awareness of how those actions can affect us, how those actions can affect our spiritual state of being, how that can affect our soul, how can it affect our spirit, how can our physical actions affect the way that we feel and the way that we experience through our emotional state of being. And not just that, but how can then the physical actions that we partake in, our physical state of being, and whatever we're dealing with when it comes to the physical state of being, how can that have an effect? How can that have an influence on the mental state of being? And being aware of that physically, you'll come to find, okay, these certain actions are going to benefit me when it comes to my physical state of being. These things are going to benefit me when it comes to helping out and improving my mental state of being, my emotional state of being, my spiritual state of being, just by having that awareness of physically what am I involved in and what causes and effects are these actions having. This could be anywhere from, let's say, a negative experience that you have with substance, a negative action that you have when it comes to negative actions. You do things that you wouldn't necessarily agree of just because you're unaware physically. You know, there's a lot of circumstances where one may do something just to fit in when it comes to what other people are experiencing when it comes to physically, and what other people are doing when it comes to physically. You see this a lot in today's times with not gonna say anyone specifically, but you can see that this is on a stage that is very prominent in today's times, where people are just doing things to fit in physically. People's physical actions are not necessarily in tune with themselves when it comes to their spiritual path. People's actions today are not necessarily in tune with their mental state of being when it comes to improving and best using their mental state of being. Also, the emotional state of being. People are using their physical actions to cope or to validate the way that they feel, and if that's a way that's destructive towards oneself, then you're simply not aware at all when it comes to your physical awareness in general. And think about how your actions are, and a lot of times, like today, people are not aware of how their physical actions are affecting their spiritual state of being. How is that affecting your spirit? How is that affecting your soul? And how is that affecting the spiritual path that you're on in life, if you are even on one in general? Because a lot of people that are just into the physical state of being are doing things for a that physical connection. You know, they only are in that physical world. They're only in that third dimensional thinking of, or feeling of, or vibrating and experiencing that physical realm, because they know nothing else. They're not aware of anything else, because they're only so specifically aware of the materialistic come and go things that the physical realm has to offer. They're not in tune when it comes to physically. They're unaware when it comes to physically. They don't know how their actions are affecting themselves when it comes to mentally. You know, your actions could be affecting the way that you think about yourself. That your actions could be affecting the way that your mental state of being processes things. Your actions physically can be affecting the way that you are able to think mentally. Are you able to have freedom of thought? Are you able to have freedom to adapt to new ways of thinking? Freedom to discover and uncover new ways, or reconnect with ways that you have thought before. But if you are physically unaware and you're just doing things just to please and validate the physical state of being, you can be unaware of a lot more things. You could be so unaware when it comes to physically that you don't know that your actions are quite literally physically taking you out. They're physically destroying you. They're physically having you they're putting you in a physical state of hell where you can't get out of this actions. You're so involved, you're so just not wanting to even stray from that path when it comes to your physical actions that you're involved in, that you're just not aware of that physically. You're not aware of how those actions can affect your emotional state of being, even though you're using those actions to so-called benefit your emotional state of being. At the end of the day, it could be destroying you, and it could be hurting you and hindering you in the long term. And not just in the long term, but in the short term, but you would not know this because you're unaware when it comes to physically. So having that physical awareness can also, let's just tie into what is going on when you're not physically aware. You are partaking in actions that are going to have an effect on the spiritual state of being or the spiritual plane of existence that you are putting yourself on or that you are into. And this could be anywhere from doing something that's destructive to your body, doing things that's destructive to your health. And at the end of the day, that is putting you in a spiritual space of not giving a shit about your body, not giving a shit about the vessel that you have, and not knowing that it's for you to take care of and to treat your physical state of being as a vessel of your own, as a temple, and not to be treating it in ways that are toxic towards one's mental state of being, toxic to the physical state of being, because that's what we're talking about, toxic to your emotional state of being, and toxic to your spiritual state of being. If you're doing something that's so negative when it comes to physically, you're spiritually killing yourself. You're spiritually losing faith spiritually in yourself. You're spiritually losing power. You're losing the ability to continuously grow when it comes to spiritually if you are unaware when it comes to physically. So be aware, and regardless of what you're doing, make sure you keep yourself in check when it comes to physically, and to not let things become to a place where you're unaware of how this is going to affect you, unaware of how you can move on from this point on when it comes to physically. But to tie into how physical awareness can help improve the mental state of being, well, you can improve that by detaching from things that are holding you back when it comes to mentally, detaching from things that are keeping you stagnant or just comfortable when it comes to mentally, detaching from things that have you mentally strayed on a path that is not right for yourself, detaching from things that are causing you to be mentally ill, detaching from things that are causing you to be mentally retarded, detaching from things that are causing you to be mentally weak. That's very important. Not only that, but how can your physical awareness and being aware of your physical actions and your physical state of being improve the physical state of being? Well, just by doing that, by taking care, by taking action into doing what's right to benefit your state of being when it comes to physically. And how can the physical awareness improve the emotional state of being? Well, you won't be damaged now when it comes to emotionally. Your actions aren't going to be damaging you. Even though you may feel good in the short term, what's really happening is you're destroying yourself. You're going against yourself, and you're going to end up feeling as if you're guilty. You're going to end up feeling as these things of regret, and that's not what one should have to deal with when it comes to the emotional state of being. You should always be in tune emotionally with what's going on in your life, in your experiences. In being unaware physically can hinder that emotional state of being. And not only that, but when it comes to being aware, when it comes to physically, this can improve your spiritual state of being, because you can find spiritual purpose. You can find yourself on a spiritual path, on a new spiritual plane of existence through, let's say, detaching from things that aren't right for you physically, or going into and being involved in things that are geared towards improving that are geared towards expanding yourself when it comes to your spiritual path, your spiritual purpose, maybe even finding a new spiritual purpose, maybe even finding a new spiritual path, just by being physically aware of your actions.
As an entrepreneur,
So that's the physical state of being. When it comes to being aware of the emotional state of being, having that emotional awareness of, how do I feel? What is my intuition telling me? Not just, oh, I feel good, I feel bad, but what is occurring in that emotional state of being, and what is this emotional state of being telling me about how can I improve my mental state of being? How can the way that I'm feeling tell me about how I need to go about thinking next time? How I need to go about using my mental state of being in the coming moments? How can the emotional state of being and being aware of my emotional state of being help me to improve my mental state of being? Help me to detach from any mental illness that I may be dealing with. And that's not, oh, a doctor told you you have mental illness. No, this could be anything like losing your ability to think in a certain way, losing your ability of independent thought, just because you are validating an emotional experience and you're unaware emotionally of how are these thoughts affecting the way that I feel. Is consistently using my mental state of being in this way going to improve or benefit my emotional state of being? And in that case, being aware of that emotional state of being aware of your intuition, and that's partly part of your intuition. It's more of a physical intuition versus a spiritual intuition, but having that emotional awareness is going to help you to find out, what actions do I need to partake in? How do I need to go about moving about in the physical existence? What people, person, places, or things do I need to be around? And if my emotional state of being and the awareness of that emotional state of being, and I'm having the intuitive sense of something's not right when it comes to physically, I need to detach from something when it comes to physically, it's having a hindrance, an effect on my emotional state of being, then simply detach from those things, move away from those things when it comes to physically, and then see how that affects your emotional state of being. See how your emotional state of being improves after the fact of detaching from that when it comes to, let's say, mentally, detaching from those things when it comes to physically. And therefore, how can this improve your emotional state of being? You'll be more emotionally stable, you'll be more emotionally strong, you'll be more emotionally readily available to experience your reality, experience everything that's going on, rather than just, oh, I'm emotionally unaware, I'm going to consistently think about these things, I'm going to always be using my mental state of being in this way, and regardless of how I feel, that's what I'm going to do. Regardless of if that's causing me to have feelings of doubt, experience emotions of uselessness, of powerlessness, of no purpose. Being aware of that will help you to now move about in the right ways that are going to benefit your emotional state of being. If you are going to not be aware when it comes to emotionally, and what your intuitive and emotional is more of a physical sense of, let's say, intuitiveness versus, like I said, a spiritual sense of intuitiveness, which comes with your wisdom, when it comes to the spiritual intuitiveness, when it comes to what you know, what you've expanded on your spiritual path, not just in this lifetime, but in all experiences that you've been through as a whole. And so being aware of that emotional intelligence, that emotional intuitiveness, and being aware of that will help you to guide yourself through your experiences that you're going to go through. Guide yourself into spaces that are going to be more right for you, a space for you to be in when it comes to emotionally, that you do not feel damaged, that you do not feel as if you are burdened emotionally, you do not feel as if you're emotionally lacking, because all these things can validate demonic actions. And when I say demonic in this case, I mean things that are that you're doing just to please something, just to validate either a feeling, a thought, an action, something that you are trying to run away from when it comes to the spiritual realm, something that you are trying to detach from when it comes to mentally, physically, or emotionally, but yet you think that it's right for you and you just want to do it. It's a desire that you want to use, yet at the end of the day, it's not the right thing, or it's destructive, or it is, let's say, in other words, like I said, demonic towards oneself, towards one's state of well-being, towards one's path when it comes to spiritually, towards one's path emotionally, mentally, or physically. And if you're just simply unaware emotionally, then you are not going to be able to deal with people in the right way. How are you going to emotionally be a support system for people? How are you going to emotionally be, and that's not that you have to be that, but if you're not even that for yourself, good luck doing that for other people. Good luck being that strong rock, that emotional support for other people, if you can't even be aware of your own state of being when it comes emotionally. Good luck being a leader. Good luck doing anything if you are not emotionally stable. You're not going to have good interactions with people. You're not going to be strong in the places that you go to, and the things that you deal with are going to have power over you because you're not even emotionally strong. You're emotionally weak, you're emotionally dependent, and you are not having an emotional freedom in order to be vulnerable to experience, have that emotional vulnerability, and have that ability to not just be emotionally vulnerable, but to be emotionally strong, to be emotionally protected, to be emotionally like I said, emotionally strong, emotionally protected, to be emotionally intuitive, have that emotional sense of being of, okay, I'm getting this is something is making me feel this specific way, and I'm going to go ahead and move now in this way. Therefore, my emotional state of being can be improved. My emotional state of being will start to become more strong, will start to become more emotionally free, emotionally independent, and emotionally able to experience whatever it is that we need to experience in order to benefit oneself. In these actions, thoughts, feelings, spiritual reasons, spiritual paths, spiritual purposes that you have can just be improved of having that emotional awareness and being emotionally aware. Now we're getting into spiritual awareness. Now this is my favorite one because spiritual awareness, for a lot of people, no one knows what that means. For a lot of people, they have no spiritual awareness. For a lot of people, they don't really even understand what spirituality is. And this is something that you will understand for yourself. For everyone, spirituality is different. What I teach is that everyone is a spirit when they are born. They are a spirit that is born into a vessel, that is born into a body. And for me, if one is aware of this fact, one should have a connection to the spiritual state of being. One should have a connection to the spiritual realm. But yet it is not that simple, because people can be aware of this fact, yet still be unaware, yet still be calcified in their spiritual state of being, still be blocked when it comes to experiencing things spiritually or having any spiritual system, having their own spiritual system. And also people that are involved in spiritual systems that validate demonic things, such as negative actions, negative thoughts, negative feelings, just under the guise of, oh, it's okay, you can do these things as long as you subscribe to this spiritual system that we have for you, or this religious spiritual system that we have that is really just a generic thing to get people redoing things into the energy of reliving or of being in a religion of something that is a continuous thing that's not necessarily geared towards your benefit when it comes to spiritually. So I think there's a lot more that goes into it. People that are aware of the fact that you are spirit when you are born into a body aren't not necessarily spiritual, but for me to know that is confirmation of how I can say, oh, I can be spiritual. Not that, oh, spirituality is something for me to break into, or it's something for me to be blocked off from and for me to achieve only through going through certain thoughts, only through going through certain actions, only going through certain feelings. Spirituality can be what it can be for anyone, but at the end of the day, true spirituality is having that awareness, having that spiritual awareness to know, am I walking in my power when it comes to spiritually? Am I spiritually weak? Am I spiritually strong? Am I spiritually experiencing things that are pushing me towards my spiritual path? Things that are gaining spiritual wisdom, gaining spiritual knowledge. And this can be improved when you have that, or not improved, but expanded upon when you have that spiritual awareness. If you're not spiritually aware, then what are you doing? Quite literally, what are you doing? I mean, for example, if you are doing physical actions that are destroying your body, that are not right for you, that are, in other words, destructive, they are demonic. They're not angelic, they're demonic, they're destructive towards one's self. If you're doing things when it comes to that physical actions, then you could be draining your power when it comes to spiritually. You could be not stepping into that spiritual power. If you're doing things when it comes to mentally, let's say thinking about things that are demonic. Of course, you can think about things, you can have those thoughts of, ooh, I want to validate these desires. I keep thinking about these desires. And I'll tell you right now on my path that even if you're detached from things when it comes to physically, you will still either consciously or subconsciously experience things when it comes to your thoughts, when it comes to thoughts of desires that you have detached from. You will constantly experience them, whether that's consciously in your waking life, whether that's revealed to you in your dream reality, whatever that may be, or your subconscious experience, and having that awareness. Let's say, right, it's gonna be something that you're gonna have to deal with, and being able to be aware of that, aware of what's going on mentally, what's my mental state of being showing or revealing about where I am on my path when it comes to spiritually. How am I spiritually experiencing life? And when it comes to your emotional state of being, if you're doing things just to validate a way that you feel, or just to validate a desire, or to become stagnant, or to stay comfortable, or to stay feeling good, or whatever that may mean, at the end of the day, you may think that that's something that is right for you, but that could be demonic towards some of your states of beings. And then having that spiritual awareness to be like, okay, this is something that I can see with my spiritual intuition, and I can see through having my spiritual awareness that that's not the right action for me. Regardless of if I want to continue doing it, I think I need to continue doing it. Other people are telling me I need to continue doing it. Other people are doing it, so therefore it lessens the burden to continue doing it. I think that spirituality can reveal, and having that spiritual awareness can point towards, is this the right thing? Is that true necessarily when it comes to mentally? Is that physically true? Is that emotionally true? Is that false? Is that having that spiritual awareness is going to reveal these, is going to expose these things? For example, all my videos that I've made, I have definitely, used that spiritual, let's say, system, used that spiritual awareness that I have to be able to embrace my spiritual path, embrace becoming expanded when it comes to spiritually gaining, let's say, spiritual experience. That's not physical age or mental age or emotional age, but that is spiritual age, being able to be wiser, being able to have more knowledge, being able to expand, not just mentally, emotionally, and physically, but that spiritual expansion that happens when you are aware of your state of being. And so having that spiritual awareness is going to be key for one to have an awakening, key for one to have an enlightening of coming to these coming to these findings, coming to these knowings, coming to having this wisdom, and being able to, let's say, teach about the mental state of being, teach about the physical state of being, teach about the emotional state of being, teach about the spiritual state of being. It all happens to be with that spiritual state of being, that spiritual awareness that you have. Because like I said, you're a spirit when you are born into a body. And not just knowing that is going to make you so-called spiritual. It's going to be a multitude of things that are going to contribute to you being, let's say, quote-unquote spiritual. But like I said, that's for each spirit, each person's individual spirit, which is a soul, to come to that awareness, to have that awareness. And therefore, this is how, being aware when it comes to mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, how this can expand you, how can this benefit you, how can this now put you in a better space, a better state of being when it comes to that. And that's going to be it for this one. I'm out.